Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Value Talks. I am Colonel Manish Kochhar, co-founder of Value Talks and co-host for today's talk. I took PMR in 2012. I am a staff college MTech qualified officer, been in the corporate sector for more than 10 years now. I've held senior level appointments in India and abroad, like business head, director of projects, etc., etc. I have been an entrepreneur. I'm an ICF certified life and organization transformation coach. And one of my life's mission now as part of Value Talks is to get the right fit for the army officers in jobs who are transitioning into corporate sector. Value Talks is our sincere endeavor to make the right advice accessible to you in all those matters where we struggle to get the right advice. We have various experts on our panel. These experts are from various fields like finance, real estate, health, construction, stock market, mutual fund, crypto, you name it, we have it. And all these people, they work 24/7. All our members who have joined our Telegram channel, they post their queries and we get the answers from our experts. Today's talk is very close to my heart as it is going to be talking about transitioning of veterans into corporate sector and how the HR industry, how the HR people look at the veterans. The talk will be hosted by, the host for the talk today is Lieutenant Colonel Rohit Agarwal, who is a 75th NDA 74 Armored Regiment officer. Post retirement, he was a master trainer with the International Finance Corporation, an entity of the World Bank Group. And he is a celebrity author. He has authored 7 books, including the famous Delhi Darbar 1911, The Complete Story, Riding the Raisina Tiger. The list is long. We will tag all these books in our Telegram channel. And there couldn't have been a better person to host today's talk. But before that, the guest for today is Mr. Mukul Chopra, who's a globally known personality from the HR domain. Mukul is Chief HR Officer at Convergenius. He's spearheading the HR function for India, Singapore, and Vietnam, and is responsible for all people-related policies and organization issues. He has a career span of more than 24 years in the HR domain. He has been in organizations like Reliance, GE Capital, Huawei, Bharti, etc. He is a alumni of Punjab University. He did his mechanical engineering as well as MBA from Punjab University. And Mukul was recognized as one of the 40 most powerful HR leaders in India at the World HRD Congress at Taj Lands in Bangalore. 3 of the organizations he has spearheaded have been recognized at various national and international forums for their HR practices, the latest being Club Factory. I will not take any more time. Welcome, Mukul. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. So it's an honor. It's an honor to be amongst the forces. I myself am an army officer's son, so I think half of the olive green I carry from there, and I have nothing but the highest regard for the men in arms. So thank you for this honor. I hope I am able to give some insights during the course of our discussions.
Rohit sir, the field is all yours. I hand over the reins to you.
Thanks. Thank you, Manish. And Mukul, again, let me welcome you once again. And just for the audience's benefit, Mukul and I had a very interesting chat this morning. We were just trying to figure out the course of our conversation today. And I'm so glad to learn that Mukul himself is a second generation, he's a Fauji brat. And also, he does have a lot of experience as a HR, leadership person in actually hiring veterans, especially short service officers and other profiles as well. So that makes the job and familiarity with the audience makes the conversation easier. So let me jump straight into it, Mukul. We have a very I know it's a very interesting and a vast topic, and we have limited time. Uh, just for the benefit of my audience, what I want to ask you firstly is that while you are a Fauci brat, but in terms of the corporate as an entity or the HR as an entity, uh, do they how do they view veterans? Let's have a first of a overview from you first.
Okay, so let me put it in genres. Initially, the people who would be now in their early 50s or people of my genre uh, would not know much about the defense. Okay, barring the fact that soldiers, officers, gentlemen guarding the borders, but I don't think they have as much insight into what exactly. I mean, forget about what we do. It's about the arms. I often have to educate people that if you see in the telecom industry, I mean, I've been in the telecom for a lot of CTOs were from the Corps of Signals. And I have to tell them the fact that, the technology which you see in civilian, so there are three levels: space, there is what is available to the defense, and then it comes in the civilian domain. So those guys are I mean, people from the armed forces are far, far more evolved. But it's just that about that, lack of insight or information available that they're ignorant about it. They think that, okay, for them, the easiest shift is to transit from one uniform to another uniform. Okay, that's so-called people who would be now in the late 40s, early 50s, people in manufacturing side of it. Okay, then comes the second one, which is the services sector. Okay, services. I think one of the biggest employers for ex-forces officers was the telecom. A lot of especially in the technical side, a lot of core of signals officers, you will find them. And they also transitioned uh, not only in India, but they went across to Africa also. And you find there quite a few Fauji's. Okay. In fact, in Huawei, my immediate reporting manager was a gentleman called Colonel Lister Herbert. Okay.
Yeah.
Then there was Brigadier Sharma, who was the first CTO who came in from, he joined BPL. So I know him from, Reliance days. So then is about services. Services, they have and a slightly younger generation, they have a more insight to it. And then is the last one, which is the short service commission. And, when they go attend a short course in the IAMS or an MDI or something, and then those officers which come up. So there, I think people start seeing them in that light. But normally, I'll be honest with you, there is a bias.
Is
The
it a
first thing
positive
is,
bias or a negative bias?
no, it's I won't call it a bias, it's called an ignorance
Or a stereotype?
or a stereotype. So the first thing they look at is, okay, let me put him into an admin role.
Right.
Yeah, so he's come out, so he'll be good in Adam, establishment, stuff like that, or security. Okay? But surprisingly, or not surprising, in fact, there are quite a few of them who've done excellently or who've done very well in the HR domain also. That's been a very natural shift. Okay. Or if you see the likes of Amazon and all, they've been hiring a lot of ex-officers. army officers, by and large in supply chain. Okay, so that's where the awareness is coming in, because so it's there, but it's slow. It depends on what sector you want to go into.
Right. So let's get to some practical sides, and I'm aware of what the audience would be wanting to listen to.
Sure.
So starting with, you're aware of the three categories of people who are looking at resettlement: the short service, the PMR, the premature retirement, and the superannuation category. So briefly, what would be your, key advice to each one of these three uh, segments in terms of preparing for their transition? Maybe 2 years, 3 years before they have to leave, what should they start doing?
So, okay. First and foremost, plan your move. You cannot say that I'm a short service commission officer. Okay, suddenly you've gone into one of those abridged courses, you come out and then you're looking around. So you decide which sector you want to go through, and preferences change. Okay, so if you're a short service, so anywhere or whatever it is, plan in advance. Okay, and start preparing yourself. Go active on social media, LinkedIn.
That may be a challenge. That may be a challenge for serving officers.
No, I know, but in LinkedIn, what happens is, well, I don't think LinkedIn. I've accepted a lot of requests from serving officers. Okay, they just write, directorate. They don't mention armed forces, but it is there. Okay.
So presence, but they're more on listening and observation. They're not really active.
Yeah, you can't. But start sending in invites to people whom you think you would want to eventually approach.
Start networking.
Right.
You mean?
Right.
Networking. Networking is very important. Please understand one thing. You are seen as laterals. You're not seen as freshers. Okay. But the disadvantage is that unlike laterals who have a relevant experience and whom even a headhunter would readily look at, you will face that challenge. A headhunter would seldom talk to you because his perception is that you will not stand a chance. So networking helps.
Okay. Sorry, Mukul, you've given me a very good opening. So why this perception that I will not stand a chance? Let's try and change. See what these people can do to try and change that.
Okay. So look, the sector operates on supply and demand. Okay. Wherever the supply is more, people with relevant experience or recruiters have, they're the ones who wear the boots, or they're the ones who have the choice. And normally, it's that the mandate which comes in. Like, for example, a very simple thing like an HR. Okay, HR is supposed to be a staff function, but you see a lot of job openings. If it's an IT sector, they'll say we prefer somebody who's worked in the IT sector. They perceive it as a straight fit. So if within this fraternity, there is so many silos in private sector. If you are a fintech guy, if you've worked in banking, they will prefer a banking guy to come in.
Okay.
They will not experiment.
So just to summarize what you said, it's a simple matter of supply and demand. So if there are two candidates, one of who has industry experience and another is a Fauji transitioning, obviously that the guy with the industry experience will get picked up. So my next question to you in this line is that where do you see that the demand for Faujis as a specialty or as something? Where is it that there may be in greater demand? Is there any such kind of, apart from security, of course, which again is another cup of tea.
So I'll tell you one thing. One very big area is logistics. Okay. I'm not talking about supply chain. I'm talking about logistics.
Right.
Okay. Why? Because one is, it's about turnaround time. It's about movement. It's about
operational
processes,
operational efficiencies. no one better than a Fauji to do it.
Right.
Okay.
So would they actively look for? Would these logistic companies be actively looking? I mean, would you have a preference for a 4G there?
Any good company worth its salt, and I'm talking about MNCs and all, they will prefer that.
Right.
You see,
Right.
the thing
So
is,
can you give, for the benefit of the audience, can you give some examples of companies like that?
so I'll tell you, like Amazon,
Right.
Flipkart, you find, so if you see these big online companies, what is it? It's technology and it's last mile connectivity,
Right.
right?
Right.
So they take in a lot of throughputs, operations. You've got big warehouses. How do you mandate it? And even give you a small example, even security now is no longer, it's no longer about physical. It's more on, how do you foolproof the organization? It's more, it's cyber security.
Multi-dimensional.
Yes.
Multi-dimensional.
So you see, the demands are changing. So there is nothing derogatory which is, associated with security. I give you a small example. Khan's Energy used to deploy a lot of people, oil fields, assets. Okay. A lot of corporates. I don't know how much are you aware about the Reliance. They have a huge security division. And if they're nowhere nearer to what we have, but they're almost at par. So likewise, all these big corporates, they're developing these. Adani would be coming up shortly. Because the way they've gone into infrastructure, I will not be surprised if they set up a separate division for this.
Mukul, okay. So let me, what happened? I diverted you from what we had started out from.
Sure.
Was your advice to these three. So starting with, you said first is to prepare. That was the first point in your advice.
Correct.
Okay. So let's go back there and take it on from there.
So, look, you need to be future ready. Okay. So when you decide that you have to transit, you need to start studying the environment as to where it is going.
Okay. So can you dwell a little deeper in that? So give some examples of what are the kind of things that they can read, because there's information overload today. And for me too, if I want to make up my mind that I want to go into logistics or I want to go into telecom, what are some of the good sources that I should start reading and following?
I think a lot of business related articles. Okay. One is that, so that you start speaking that lingo, it becomes part of that lingo. Okay.
Right.
I think trends.
Exactly.
What's happening around. Okay. And it's not hard. You have HBRs of the world. Okay. You have, now it's Google is there, a lot of information. So, okay. There are fads. Okay. And there are certainties. Like, for example, let me give you I'll quote EdTech. There was a big boom, and the boom was fueled because of COVID. And now again, the offline classes have come in, so a lot of people, jumped into it, and now they're realizing that they just hired too fast, too soon. The trend is going down, so now they're scrambling to set up offline centers. So Byju's is coming in. Byju's took our cars. Now they're rebranding it as Byju's. Una Academy is coming in. So you see, you have to see what is sustainable. So don't go in for fads. Okay, just because it happens to be the flavor of the season, because it will go up, it will go down.
So a little deeper analysis is what you're recommending, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I think that's very helpful. And so now, when you read these articles, can you also maybe give a quick and dirty list of recommendations of a few books, some very basics, something like say economics or something like that, which would help you understand some very basic concepts in terms of corporate and things like how does like you said, how does demand and supply function, or how does these trends. So maybe if you can't think of them now, maybe you can come up with that later and we can share it on the Telegram group. But
Sure.
if you can think of any books which would be, and very, very basic, like I gave economics as an example because it's a it's something that a common person can read and understand. So can you suggest some books?
I will. All of us read magazines. Okay, a little past, but instead of reading India Today, read a Business Today,
Yeah.
right? Subscribe to an Economic Times. Okay, start understanding. That's an old age. This thing I do is like whatever is difficult, I don't understand. Try to get a deeper analysis of it. So I will suggest books. I will offline. I will. I mean, I'll send it across and you can share it. I think those books will help them. But the first thing which you need to do is get across the table. Today, if you go on LinkedIn, you'll see numerous jobs. And a typical this thing is the moment a posting is done within an hour, 2 hours, depending on the stature of the company, you have more than 200 applicants and they seal off.
Right.
Now, first is how do you get across those 200 applicants, and then what is it that your application should stand out for?
Right.
Rest assured, I can tell you is when you come across to a 4G, in terms of the softer skills, you have it all. Okay. Presentability, demeanor, finesse, everything is there. It's now about speaking the language. And that
Right.
cannot be acquired. You have to get
Right.
it in your lingo. And that takes time.
Okay, so now for me to be able to speak that language, or for me to be able to convey my softer skills or something, I need to get past that barrier of the first 200, and I think that's a very interesting point that you raised. So what are some of the things that I know a thing like a lot of these things are algorithm driven. So what are some things that I need to take care when I'm putting in an application or my CV? What are some of the things that what are some of the boxes that I need to check so that I just don't get rejected by the software itself?
Okay, so one of the basic this thing, which I've come across with a 4G CV is that, we write too much details. And no offense meant and no offense taken. It's like, counterinsurgency operations, stuff like that. People would write, I may understand because I happen to have grown in that. People don't. You have to sort of make it more crisper. It should not be heavy on the eye. While you may be very proud of your achievements or stuff like that, but the fact is somebody who's going through it, if he has a bunch of 300 applications, perhaps you just get a 10-second merit. Right? Nobody.
So what are the essentials that you think what should be there? I understood. I'm sure
Okay.
everyone has understood.
So one is yeah. So the first thing is about what is it that you say makes you qualified for that job. Have you done some special courses? Okay. And courses, I'm discounting what you've done in the defense staff college and all. They don't understand. They won't. But what is it which you've done here? Okay. There are a lot of online, you have those UNA academies of the world, and you have Residex, I think Skilldex or something. You do certifications, which you put in there. Of course, these are paid ones, like from Harvard or MIT or something. You get a certificate, but of course it is there. Okay. A brief snapshot of what you are. It's the first page which will define you.
Okay, so I just want to go a little deeper into this. We'll come back to this track again. When you say what you are, some advice on what should I highlight as what are my characteristics or my traits, or what I can deliver for you, or so what should I highlight in what you are?
So today, the three biggest things in an organization as a skill set, or you will call it as a trait, which I would look at is adaptability, okay, resilience, and that ability to work under ambiguity.
Great. I think that's very, very succinct and very
Mukul, I have
understandable.
Rohit
Sure.
sir, if I may, uh, Mukul, I have been helping a lot of army officers, and I've been in drafting their CV, not in very detail, but yes, I do guide. As you rightly said, they generally come out with they commanded so and so, they did so and so, which for an army this thing it's fine, but it is not the lingo understood by the industry. So I have been doing guiding them, but I have myself seen for a job for which when I was looking for job and whenever I was applying, for a job for which I was 100% a good fit, or I thought I am a good fit, but in your LinkedIn they say 2 out of 10 skills match. I can change my CV and my LinkedIn profile to match those skills, but I cannot be doing it for every this thing. How does the recruiter, how does a CV is filtered? I would like to understand that.
So I tell you, and that's the irony. Okay, these are fads which come in. Uh, the guy will say, okay,
I'll give you a small example, Mukul.
Gee.
In my CV, suppose it is written team building, etc., etc., and there it is written team operations. Okay, it doesn't match this thing. I have seen it. So there is a flaw in this particular this thing where we go in for keyword search and word match. So I don't know how to, if you keep kind of changing your CVs to match those particular keywords and then keep sending. That is one way, but otherwise, what is the trick to do it?
Manish, can I also just add one more thing here?
Yeah, sure.
I think that Mukul will agree with me, and something very basic, but it came to my mind. So I just thought, when Mukul was saying that these are the things that we need to highlight, I think one thing that we need to do more diligently is read the JD, which is the job description, and then answer the question as to why you are a fit for that. So Mukul, do you agree with that? And can you talk a little more about how should one do that?
So, okay. To answer to Rohit, you got it right. It's not one size which fits all. You need to customize it. Okay, you need to customize your CV. Like I'll tell you, I'm in the HR field. Okay, now when I get in touch with headhunters or something, he says, "Sir, ऐसा है, उधर CHRO चाहिए, but 70% hiring है. तो आप अपना hiring oriented ज़्यादा बना लीजिएगा. ठीक है ना? Highlight that out. Yeah, this is a pure maintenance one, so it should not come out that you are a hiring guy, or they want an OD guy. So please highlight as to what interventions you've done. You have to customize your CV. It's not about one size that fits all. Secondly, I'll tell you the honest or the dirty secret behind LinkedIn. It depends upon who's operating it, who's the recruiter. Some do a very diligent work, some do a very shoddy job. I've had good recruiters. Okay, I've had bad recruiters. Some get me, in the worst of times, I've got the best of CVs, and some, even in the best of times, I've got the worst of CVs. So it's ultimately, it's the man behind the machine, as they say.
So, Mukul, I think you've given me a very interesting opening again. This is something that I also understood much later in life. But maybe if you can just, in 5 minutes, and explain this to the audience, if you can just explain the HR structure. So when I'm sending in a CV, what process does it follow, and where all does it go? And like you said, the recruiter and this thing. So if you could just quickly explain the organization or how does hiring work per se.
Okay, so there are, just like in the army, there are 3 levels. Okay, so there is a very well-established organization, a blue chip MNC, who has been in operations for a longish period of time, and they have very settled operations. They will have a very well-defined HR process. Okay. Typically, CV comes in, they will process it. If they don't see you are suitable for it, they'll send you a regret letter. In most of the organization, it's like a black hole. You put in, you're lucky if somebody calls you. Okay? Right? Uh, it all depends upon how evolved the structure is. Okay. So typically, okay, let me tell you how it happens. A business head will say, I need a person, and this is the JD for that person. Okay. The HR person will put it, they will decide on the source of hiring. So it can be either a LinkedIn, it can be through Naukri. They'll do that database. They may give it to a recruiter, right? Or they will search themselves. Right? Typically, LinkedIn is also used because companies need to promote themselves. Okay, so they want to make themselves popular, so they'll put, okay, somebody is hiring, so and so is hiring, so they'll put that thing out there. Now the CVs come in. Okay, that first cut is done by a recruiter, and as I said again, it depends on the quality of the recruiter. A good recruiter will always will go through all those CVs which are there, and he'll sift the best one. Now that's where it matters, is how relevant he perceives your CV to be. I'm talking about perception, because he's not met you. So how impressive it looks and how relatable it looks to what he's looking for. So like in BPOs, the earlier erstwhile BPOs, you had to say the diction or the accent neutrality. Same is out here. It has to be, the lingo or the words you speak or write has to sound more corporate. So
Okay.
So then it is sent to the business head. Okay. It depends upon the business head. Tomorrow, if there is, by and large, they play safe. They say birds of a feather flock together, so he will only look for people who have those relevant. Some of them would like to be more adventurous. Okay. Or it depends on the HR guy who says, okay, let's give this guy a try. Or it's a company policy say that we need to have so many people from here. So
where does networking come in this?
Okay. Now you need to understand, or see, now there are almost sufficient number of people from the armed forces in various sectors or pockets. Okay. And naturally there is a bias. Not exactly a bias. Of course, they would like to help their fellow brethren. So see which industry is experimenting with ex-forces officers. Apply there. Right. So
Okay. Now coming back to preparatory. So you said read up, find out about the environment, then preparing your CV and tailor making it, customizing it. What else?
And before that, Mukul, just related to this only, please. How long should it be?
of what?
CV.
Okay. In this time,
I have seen CVs running into 5-6 pages also, and I have seen, and you must have seen CVs which are just 1.5 page or 2 pages.
see, ideally don't extend it beyond 2 pages. Okay, don't. Nobody has the time to go through 5 pages. And today, being an online world, you no longer get a CV on a printout. People see it on the screen and they decide. Okay, so my advice is don't go beyond 2 pages.
Right.
Okay. So coming back to preparation, reading, getting to know the environment, getting to know the trends, preparing your CV, preparing yourself by getting the right qualifications. Now, while talking about qualifications, one question which is very often asked in groups and everything is importance of an MBA. The difference between doing any MBA and is it worthwhile taking a study leave and doing A class institute MBA, and an online versus offline versus an executive program. So if you can just briefly throw some highlight on this.
Okay. Look, uh, an offline MBA always helps. Okay, it always helps. Uh, it's all about networking. I'll give you an example, an ISB. Okay, do a full-time ISB. It costs a bomb, I admit that. Okay, it's very expensive. But fact is, you will recover that investment in the next 3 years. This
Yeah.
I'm not harping only on an ISB. It can be anything. I mean, go overseas. Okay, do a full-time course. It'll put you in a different league. And especially, this is my advice to the young officers who are short service commission. Look, it's a marathon. You have to increase your longevity. You come out when you are 28, 30. That's it. 58 tak kaam karna. You can surely spend 2 years on yourself.
Absolutely, and we have live examples. I mean, I can quote one very dear friend, Kulmeet Bawa, who left around 10 years of service. No, he was not short service. He did his ISB and then he went abroad. He's MD of SAP right now. He's an Armored Corps officer, 10 years ex-NDA. So what you're saying is absolutely correct, and there are proven cases where this has worked very, very successfully. So I think that's very true.
And I
Uh,
think, sorry, the benefit which armed forces people have is the fact that, when you appear for a GMAT or something, you're already very good at the language.
yeah.
Okay.
But Mukul, the challenge here is also, so the challenge here is like, yes, ideally I would like to, maybe go abroad and do a full-time MBA or something. One is, of course, getting that study leave, getting the permission to go abroad, arranging the finances and all. Yes, it's not. And also thereafter that once you get that study leave and you go out, you get under a bond for 3 years. So there are certain challenges in that process. Either you pay out that bond. So in addition to all that you've studied, you're also paying out the bond. So it leaves you in a big hole. That is one aspect. So vis-a-vis that, so that option agreed is the ideal. So if that is not available, that is not possible for you, what other courses are available? I mean, what other options are available? Like, for example, say an executive MBA, say someone who's posted in and around Delhi, how valuable would be an executive MBA in FMS or IIFT, or similar such things that you are, and also vis-a-vis a total uselessness or usefulness of a online MBA, like someone does it from an IGNOU or something like that.
So, okay, if I can quote it by an example, I have a batchmate of mine, full colonel. He is IIT MTech. He's a weapon specialist. Okay. IIT, he did MTech. He did from IIT, and then he was posted in Delhi. He did a 3-year part-time course in IIFT. It's not about what you do; it's how you put it to use. Okay, he's still serving because he could not make up his mind. Now, he will be 53, another year he'll retire. 54, if he has a link somewhere, one of my batchmates who is doing well, he may just take him. But in that heap of applications which come for a job, he won't stand a chance because there is a bias for age, against age. Okay, so when I say, all these symbiosis and okay, naming is just one of the things, but fact is all these develop these online courses or stuff like that, it was only to increase the revenue. No infrastructure cost, nothing. You just send in booklets, people do it. Unka kya jata hai? Degree baant. Even in IMs, there is a caste system. So, you have those ABCD or ABC, they will consider themselves premier. Then you have these IM Rohtak, Jammu, stuff like that, the emerging IMs. IM Amritsar. I mean, I do my lecture circuits there. I used to do there. It's struggling. Okay. We talk about salaries that guy got a 1.3 crore salary from I. He's only one guy. The average salary today, I was looking for an EA for my boss here. He's an IM Rohit guy. 2 years, he's willing to come at 11 lakhs. So time is precious. Okay, if you have to invest, take the best.
What about those who are coming after, say, 20 years and 24 years? A lot of them, they also go through ISB grill. But then, is it advisable?
So look, what happens is with the ISPs now, I know of a lot of short. It's an abridged course out there. It's around a 6 months course, right?
No. I'm not talking about that. Is another course.
Right.
But a lot of people go for full 1 year executive MBA through ISB, appear for GMAT and all. So is that advisable after, say, 20 years of service in the army or 24 years, and then they come out? They take early retirement. They're not doing this thing, but still 24 years.
Okay, so let me put it this way. There is no thumb rule. Okay, but it only betters your chances. It's by virtue of the connects you make, the camaraderie you build.
Also, the aura or the stamp also matters when you put your CV in.
By and large, what happens is people who come in for the courses and who come in from the corporate sector, they're also very fairly senior guys.
Right.
So the chances of getting onboarded with one of them is very high.
Okay, now I want to come to a very delicate part of this whole discussion and process. The salary negotiation, the salary expectations, the reality check, and there is often a talk about Fauji's willing to work for less than what they're worth, and so I want your views. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. So look, what happens is it's about setting sail.
Right.
Okay. When you choose an organization or you get an organization, invest there for 4-5 years.
Right.
Because then you have sealed your stamp as they look at you as a solid, then you're no longer looked upon as a Fauji coming in,
right.
but as a corporate resource or a corporate person. Okay.
Right.
I'll tell you, in corporate, initially the growth is slow in an organization. Then once you've invested 4-5 years, your salary and your growth is exponential because then you're seen as a trusted guy.
Right. So what you're saying maybe applicable for a short service or a PMR guy who's say going out at 30 or at 40, 42, and then he does this initial bit of roughing it out or whatever. And then what about the guy who's going out at 54, 56? What should be his expectations? What should he settle at? What should he refuse?
No, so again, no thumb rule to it, but let me tell you very clearly. I remember I hired a guy from the tea plantation. Okay. So that guy, after 20 years of service, had a salary of 11 lakhs. Okay. And I gave him 14. I said, okay, fine, welcome aboard. Then after 2 months, he came in, he says, Sab, I had a free house. I had free electricity. The petrol was on the house. Even I had a full pantry. I was paid an allowance to keep 2 dogs. Okay. That perks I never counted. Right. So an equation between what you get now, you add another 50%. Why I'm saying another 50% of your salary is the fact that you'll come in a taxation bracket of 35%, so it will be 35% only.
Actually, I think it will be more than 50% because with free accommodation, 30% HRA straight away is there. So I think it should be a little more than 50%. So now I just want you to talk a little more about this for the benefit of the audience.
So I'll tell you, again, as I say, it's about supply and demand.
Right.
Today, the economy is going downwards. Okay. A lot of people who were drawing, crore plus or something like that, when I say, are willing to settle for 40% less. Okay. The safe range which an organization think that we can invest, and these I'm talking about mid-term organizations, around 50, 60 lakhs. Beyond that, the filtration becomes more and more. So Wood says don't settle for anything less than 36, and anything
Right.
up is welcome.
Great. I think you said what was close to my heart. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Um, so one is finding out information about how does one go about actually looking for openings. One is of course job postings on LinkedIn and your network or any. But what are some of the other ways that you can suggest that okay now, in fact, not even looking for opening, even getting more information about what would be more suitable for me. What are some kind of maybe networking opportunities where these people can go and interact with people, or so some maybe events like Picky or something like that. Some ideas that may not occur to us or to Fauji's, where which avenues they can tap to for information, networking, and other such things.
So, okay, actually, why I laugh or smirk is I, I I often now don't go to conferences because it's all about I giving my visiting card to somebody giving his visiting card along with his possibly his own CV, because that's how
Right,
it's happening in the corporate world.
right,
Anybody you talk to is not happy the way wherever he or she is, so they're always looking to
right,
jump out. Okay, pickies and all are good to attend to know what's happening. Uh, uh, they're good networking events, but I think my suggestion is get a database of all the 4Gs who are there in corporate, and you'll find a lot of them.
right.
Okay, the time is right now to build a 4G specific Naukri.com.
Right, right.
Okay,
So I think
because
that is happening. I'm sure. Yeah, that is
I was,
happening. There are a couple of
no,
yeah,
but it is
I was also about to do it, but
right.
then I dropped it for some other this thing.
See, I'll tell you, I also have I'm part of a core HR IR group which has got around 1,000 HR professionals. Okay, uh, we do get CVs on that network also. Okay, some get employed rapidly, some don't. But by and large, these are from the private sector. Again, as I said, there's a huge caste system which is prevalent and a regional bias in corporate. Trust me, education has got nothing to do with your own regional caste, religion bias, those three dimensions. Uh, you know, with all due respects, there's a very strong RIA lobby. There would be a Tambram lobby if, and their merit doesn't play. They will promote their own ilk. It's rampant. Okay. Uh, so you need to know what card to play. Army makes you forget that. Corporate says, welcome to this world.
right,
Okay.
right.
So that is one of the biggest unlearnings you have to do.
So, unlearning you mentioned, and that was actually my next question. So, yeah. So, and that is going to be my last question. Then maybe Manish has some more, then we can head for questions. And I know your outlaws are waiting for dinner. So, um, what are some of the unlearnings that we should do before we step out? One is, of course, put the Army Act away in the locker. But apart from that, yeah.
So it's a tough one because I don't want to uh, shatter the mirage which people have of corporates. Okay,
Right.
but I will just sum it in one word or in a sentence which I have learned, and I've learned the hard way, that you need to learn to swim with the sharks and dance with the wolves.
Right.
And these are the ones you will not know. Like in the army, the enemy is quite defined. Here it's not.
Right. Right.
ठीक है ना, वो तो ना नाम नमक and निशान
Naam namak
नहीं
nishan.
चलता.
Right. Right.
That doesn't work here. Okay, it's
So okay. So can I give you my interpretation of what you're saying? So here we learn that unit ki izzat and unit ka namak. So I will do anything, but I'll not leave my unit or betray my unit. Whereas in the corporate world, it is that okay, if I get a better offer, I will jump ship and I will go there, and no one will hold me, in any kind of a low esteem or anything because of that. And same thing is as far as the organizational loyalty to you is concerned. That if today, if I'm not for any reason they don't need me, they will not think twice before letting me go. So that instinct of loyalty for the organization, or that it does not correlate to the organizational loyalty that we have in the forces. Is that what you're trying to?
yes, because see, dekhe, there are two types of organizations. Okay? One is typically a professional, which we call it, that that what is a professional organization where that guy at the top is changeable. Okay. Today he's the CEO, for example, a subsidiary of a multinational in India. The CEO will change. The other is a promoter-driven organization. Okay, na? I work on both sides. I work with promoters also. I work with professionals also. Okay. The difference between a professional and a promoter is that promoter is much more difficult to manage because nobody knows what a promoter thinks. It all depends on what side of his personality he chooses to show you. Vis-a-vis in a professional, you can figure out, okay, isko ye pasand hai, ye nahi pasand, so let me do that.
Right.
And when we talk about organizational loyalty and stuff like that, please profess. But I said, don't take a stand. Take a position. Because you never, back and forth keeps on happening. So, आप कभी ये मत कि organizations, I'm sorry to say, they operate in shades of gray. There is nothing called black and white.
I would like to add, Mukul here, though I have much lesser experience than what you have. Where what is an ask from an army officer basically, and where we lack actually, is the emotional quotient. We get emotional. What you are saying, what you are actually saying is, I think this is what you're also telling. In army we are emotional about our job. It's a task in hand, and that task is our izzat, naam, namak, nishan. And in those emotions we get swayed. But in corporate, you have to get the emotion to one side, and that is what is the biggest ask I have seen where the problems arise in.
I think I will agree with you fully because I have this. I told you my junior, who was a short. I think he would get emotional. I say, yeah, chuck it. It's not worth it. Be passionate.
Yeah.
But don't be emotional.
Exactly.
ठीक है ना? So professional क्या होता है? वो passionate होता है. वो emotional नहीं होता.
Absolutely.
ठीक है ना? At the end of the day, businesses are not they're not running NGOs. It's not a charity organ. They're in the business of business. So sometimes there are calls which are taken, which, I as an HR guy could never fathom. But now I've started learning it. You have to look at it in a different light. Right? So, and secondly, don't stick your neck out for anyone.
That is what that is part of being emotional only.
Yeah.
We
So, I have another quote.
let
You
them
know,
fight their own battle.
I also tell people, no, कि when you board an aircraft, वो कहते हैं ना, हवा का दबाव कम होने से वो ऑक्सीजन मास्क गिर जाएगा, तो पहले अपने लगाओ, बाद में दूसरे को लगाओ. ऐसे use the same analogy here. First save yourself, and then if you're in a position, save others, but don't stick your neck out.
So, Mukul, the only ask we have from you, since you have been part of this industry and facilitated at HRD Congress and all, I mean, there is a serious effort required to change the perception which the industry has of army veterans or defense veterans. I wouldn't say army veterans, defense veterans. Uh, where would a company or organization get a guy who's disciplined, honest, and who has integrity, who's immaculate? He has good communication skills. He's methodical. He can handle operations. He can handle everything. And still, it is only, I think, most of the good companies like Google or other uh, renowned organizations, they have some this thing for veterans. They have their own veteran hiring and etc. etc. Whereas in Indian industry, it is still lacking, though it has started, but still. So what I would request people of your stature is to, whenever there is an HRD Congress or something, you ask people from industry, from veterans and army fraternity who can speak at these events, give a perspective. The industry has a perspective that the army officers or defense officers are not flexible, they are rigid, they work under silos, etc., etc., which is not true. And here I would also beg to differ from one of your statements which you made, that in army the enemy is known. Gone are those days. We are not going for convention war anywhere. Our biggest war is fought in Kashmir, where the enemy is not known, or in Nagaland, or in the east. I mean, we are fighting a battle where enemy is not known. I know your context was different, but still. So what I'm trying to say is that there is a need to change this perception, and this can be done at your level with your help and people of your circle who are in your circle. So that is the ask we have from you, definitely.
No, so okay. To give you this thing, I have always been, not much is known, but the fact my first job was with SR Telecom. Okay, and the mandate was to set up a basic services arm. Okay. So basic services means what you call as the plain old telephony service, which was fixed line.
Right.
Okay. So we've grown up in an era wherein, the DOT, the most powerful guy is the linesman. You keep him happy, your phone will work. But in private sector, you cannot look at, corruption, and secondly, the fact that, indiscipline. So when we were grappling with this, and that's where I made a complete proposal, was to hire people from the Corps of Signals. Because in the army, you have a parallel network. And today, not SR, but if you go in Reliance, the erstwhile Reliance, which was there, the Infocom, if you go and look at people who are managing their optical fibers, they had a company called Reliance Nextlink Private Limited.
Yes.
And that was all ex-forces. So not only would they look after the OSP, the fiber optics, but also utilities. So that was a complete this thing which came in. Okay. So there are islands around where people canvas for it. It's just about who connects those islands. Okay. As again I said, your biggest, maybe the next leadership lecture which you hold, get somebody from the corporate, from the forces who's made it big in the corporate.
Sure, we will. In
They
fact,
will give you more relevant tips as to what make them work for it.
it's already planned, sir.
Yeah. So they will
Rohit
be
sir, field is
deeper
all
insight.
yours. Question and answer
Uh,
session.
yeah. So what I will do is I will first take on. I know, and for the audience's benefit also, Mukul has been very kind because he's got a dinner at home, but yet he's kept his commitment to us, and so we're going to let him go after another 10 minutes. So, and what we will do is that Manish, I think you'll answer the questions on the Telegram channel thereafter.
Sure.
We'll get Mukul to give you the answers, and they will be posted on the Telegram channel. So even if your question does not get covered during the next 10-15 minutes, it will be answered by Mukul. Also, if you have any further questions, please do keep typing them in because they will get covered. So please keep typing your questions in the chat box. I'll start taking them from the top right now.
Should I read the questions for you, sir, or Rohit sir?
Yeah.
You can
Yeah,
read
please.
it.
You go ahead and read. Yeah, go ahead and read, and Mukul can
Okay.
answer.
Jivinder sir has got has a doubt. He says that I heard throughout the talk to work under ambiguity. Please validate or explain. I think that's what he wants to say.
Okay. See,
Just read the next part also before you.
Yeah, he says if yes, then how to work if SOD is not streamlined between two functions?
no.
Is
So
that
when I
SOP?
say, so I'll tell you, when we talk about ambiguity today, if you ask any person, I mean, let me give you a small example. 10 years ago, who had heard about Elon Musk? Who had heard about Amazon being the biggest company? It was GE. So today, it's mutating at a much faster pace than when we started our careers. If who had thought that you would have a Zomato coming in? Who had thought about a Flipkart? I remember Flipkart started delivering books online. For a longest period, they were delivering books online, and I used to be their regular subscriber. And then it became, today, incidentally, Flipkart is ahead of Amazon, just for information. Who thought that the brick and mortar companies would? So when I talk about ambiguity, today, none of the CEOs know what it looks like 3 years hence. So I tell, it's not for you, but I tell all my juniors, I tell them, stay relevant. The biggest thing you need to fear is obsolete. The day you get obsolete, you're chucked out. It's like, if I have to give you an analogy, it's like a Bombay local. अगर आप एक बार फर्स्ट क्लास के डब्बे से नीचे उतर गए और ट्रेन चल पड़ी तो it's 5 seconds and then picks up speed. So if your career gets derailed, it'll take a lot of effort to get back on track. Not that it will not get derailed, it will, but it is up to you how sooner you're able to get back on track. I got derailed twice. I have no shame in saying that. I made the wrong set of choices. But it was again up to me only to get back on track. My previous organization was Club Factory, Hangzhou based. We had the Gablan incident, and amongst the apps which got banned was this. We were the third largest. I was on the wrong side, 50. I still had to get relevant. I could have cried my heart out, why me, stuff like that. But I reinvented myself. Now I work with a co-founder who was in his nappies when I was doing my engineering. It's about relatability. But more importantly is about relevance. So stay relevant.
So before we take the next question, just for 1 second, I want to show, gentlemen, this is our vast NGO, which is supported by Value Talks and Olive Green Reality. And it is founded by Dr. Parminder Kaur. It's doing a wonderful job for neonatal mortality. Got number of awards. I would request all those who are in the corporate sector or in their individual capacity or through CSR funds, please support this. You will be doing whatever efforts you put in, it will go towards promoting a noble cause. Question from C Storm, nice name. how do we clear the salary negotiation part? So I'll give you the gist of the question. The question is that he has reached the final level of interview 3-4 times, and but at one stage it was 7 levels he cleared, but got stuck at the salary while negotiating the salary. He expressed that he was ready for just slightly above what he was getting currently, but still he didn't make it. So how does one negotiate the salary?
No, so it all okay. You see, it's like a in some cases, normally most of the recruiters fall into the trap is what's your existing salary and how much I can get that person for at whatever is the lowest possible. You have to keep the channels open. You have to come through a middle way. Again, as I said, you don't take a stand, you take a position. At the same time, you don't compromise. So it all depends upon how, I don't call it desperation, I call it keenness. How keen are you for that organization? Okay.
Right.
Right. So when you do a salary negotiation, I mean, ask them how much is it that, so by and large, there are, see, the fact that you have reached to that stage is that you were in their salary norms. Today, if my budget, every position has an indicative salary range. Okay. So I will only look at people who are around 20 or 25% less than what they get, my indicative salary range, because when I negotiate, I know they'll ask for a 20% hike. So the fact that you made it till there is testimonial to the fact that you were in their salary range. I don't know exactly what transpired.
Is it a good idea to ask for if one is approached by a recruiter, and is it a good idea that the applicant asks that what is the salary bracket right in the beginning? Because I have got this answer. I know recruiters say that is the last part.
No, so I'll tell you what happens is they will invest time only if they think that you will come in that salary band. Okay. Sometimes organizations also are willing to tweak the salary band if they think they've got a very good catch. Okay. But having said that, I think it's a good ploy to ask the person, what is it that you have in mind? Let him open the cards first.
Mukul, I just want to step in here for a second, and maybe you would like to explain, like you're talking about promoter-driven companies and very, very set corporates. Maybe in these two different environments, the norms may vary slightly.
Correct. Yeah. So it, Rohit said, it's also a fact about what stage the organization is in.
Right.
If it's a very established this thing, they would have norms. Because you're going to come in and you're going to just work as a mere cog in the wheel. But if it is like expanding rapidly and people are required, they will hire recklessly. Because that time
so I was referring more to at a level where you are working directly or maybe one level below the promoter. There, the flexibility in that kind of an organization in the negotiations would be higher vis-a-vis in a typical corporate kind of a.
You're right. You're right. That's how it operates.
Yeah.
Right.
Shiv Sangwan, sir, an infantry officer, served before joining Forge in hotel industry, non-techie. Also undertaken number of online courses, done extremely well being in Forge, commanded unit. How should one choose the field to join? Logistics, HR, security. What should be the criteria to choose a field for an infantry guy who has done nothing technical or any specialist work? Mukul.
Okay. So, look, here it's about your intent, what you want to do. Okay. You think security is something you would like to pursue, then get certifications in that. You want to get into HR, please be mindful of the fact that HR, there's a lot of competition. Not that because I'm an HR guy, but the fact is, there are people who are there who are much more uh, coming from uh, the relevant, for want of it, civilian experience zyada hai. Logistics, yes, it's a growing field. Infrastructure is a growing field. Uh, I would place my bet on logistics.
Right.
It
So,
is something which is,
Yes, sir.
please.
it's getting evolved. That's what I'm saying.
Right. No, just a thought to what you're saying, and it's something that I have also noticed, and especially on LinkedIn and other, people trying to network. And correct me if I'm wrong in here. So, what we normally do, a mistake that we make is, okay, looking for opening in HR, oblique administration, oblique security, oblique, we try and yeah. So, can you just highlight that? You must have noticed that, and I think maybe. How to narrow down and how to focus.
Okay. So, firstly, don't show your. It's like a to whomsoever it may concern, to whatsoever I may get. So, it's like entering into. Please understand, when you get into a corporate, it's like entering into a hen coop. Till the time you don't focus on which hen to catch, you will not get anything in hand. Again, as I said, you can customize yourself depending on the opening which is there. But you cannot have it broad-based. It'll never ever, forget about it, it'll not even get across the first level.
So any tips on actually, looking at and deciding for yourself that, okay, where should I go in for? Should I go in for security, or should I go in for, maybe do a SWOT analysis, maybe, how does one introspect and come up to that kind of
the beauty about, again, the forces is you're trained in everything. Okay. I would say is avoid support functions like HR, admin. HR, why I'm saying avoid it is, the fact is that today they are looking at, there is something called a greening which is happening in corporate. People below 40 are something which are preferred. Okay. So in line functions like sales or something, they will still go. But in support functions, they will, they would like to enforce that rule. Secondly, with all due respects, there is something called a diversity drive, which is happening in MNCs. So, and they have a very narrow definition of diversity is, hire women.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Yeah. So nothing wrong in that. But this is a West-driven culture. I get pressurized to hire women, I have to maintain in some of this thing. I can't put her in sales. आप जब तक सोसाइटी की आउटलुक नहीं चेंज करोगे, आप एक कॉर्पोरेट में कैसे कर दोगे? How safe is the person when he or she steps out of my office domain? I can look after her as long as she's in office. Outside of office, I can't guarantee. Why do you think in call centers and all we used to have these security guys? So much so we've had incidents in Jackass. So driver के साथ एक security वाला जाता था. And usually it was always that the last stop would not be a girl. It'll be a person, even if he has to come back. ठीक है? So वो जो diversity की जो drive होती है ना, सबसे पहले HR में आती है. In soft functions, customer service, HR and all. So you have a bigger competition there. So one is age, the second is diversity. So third is then you have people like me who are also out there fighting for it. So it goes below the ladder, or you're at the lower end. But in areas like like I say, infrastructure, which are remote postings, like Odisha, steel plants, stuff like that, people are loath to go. They pay well, but वो जो corporate में होते ना, the youngsters, they prefer to stay in metros because they want to have a life after office. So there the chances grow.
I think it is most of the, I have seen, Rohit sir, I have seen the questions, MBA online and offline, we have already covered. Rest of the questions also can be posted on the Telegram channel. The link is already posted in the chat box. Gentlemen, you give your questions. We'll request Mukul to answer those questions which can be answered by him. And be rest assured that we'll get back to you. We'll definitely respond to you. Any other thing, Mukul, you would like to add? Rohit sir, you also please. One parting advice.
Okay, so no advice whatsoever. Okay, it's just about the fact that you have to take charge of yourself. You define yourself. Okay, this is nothing new. It's nothing which you have not done before. It's just about getting that right opening. I think, as I said again, in terms of all the soft skills which you have everything which goes in for you. It's just about choosing the right sector. Okay, being open. Tell you the truth, corporate is not all glamorous. It's not glamorous. It's a what it appears from this side of the table. I can tell you for sure it's not that. But having said that, make study as much in depth about where and what you want to do, and it's a 3 or 4 years process because it takes time to get into that role. So start early before you decide to hang your uniform, and invest in building your profile in terms of education, qualifications. It should be nothing less than blue chip. जैसे आर्मी में कहते हैं ना, वो एक रेड बैंड की अलग ही ठाठ होती है. The red band out here is also different. These are those blue chip Ivy Leagues. They support each other.
Rohit sir?
Just from my own personal experience and this thing, because I have gone through this journey. I'm 12 years down this journey as a view. So my learning has been, and this is the path that I have followed, is, you can also look beyond the beaten path. You can look beyond a core 9 to 5 corporate job. You can look at consulting. You can look at entrepreneurship. It's a little intimidating to go down these paths, but once you go down, the rewards are they're worth it. And to do that, you need a bit of financial stability. So you need to plan your finances. Amongst the planning that you need to do while leaving, I would like to add to what all Mukul has said, is plan your finances at least for the first 1 year. Take it, especially for people who are, you have to take a plunge, especially like I left at 20. I said 20, I put in my application the day I completed 20, and 20 years and 3 months I was out. I'd just taken a call that I have to get out. I didn't have a job. I never took up a job. But the point is, I planned my finances for 1 year. That I catered for no earnings for 1 year. It is doable. Once you have that fear behind you of, I have to start earning, you will be much more better equipped to take risks and to take your time and maybe, experiment about things like consulting and entrepreneurship. So, start thinking out of the box in these terms also. And financial planning is very important, something we do not do throughout our service. Please look at that. That would be my bit of advice.
Thank you, sir. All that is left now is to thank Mukul. But before Mukul, you leave the show, you were the hero of the show. Before you leave the show, one request we have is, in case, whichever organization you are part of, wherever you are, I'm sure that you will be successful in whatever you do. Please do have that corner for the army officers who are transitioning into corporate sector. In Value Talks also, we have a lot of resumes waiting with us. They are lying with us, and we are trying to get opening for them. Please do help us out wherever you can. And thank you so much for sparing your time. I know there is a dinner at your place, and we won't hold you. Thank you so much for joining us.
No. Thank you for having me at this talk. I mean, it's if any, maybe a fraction of it, if it's benefited, I think I owe it that much to the forces. Yeah. So
thank you so much.
Yeah.
And Rohit sir, thank you so much. The next session, which we would definitely like to have with you, is how to write a book. No, that's been on my mind. And we would definitely have a book, session on you on that. There are a lot of us.
I already am slotted for one on that on reattire very soon. So maybe you could combine that.
Thank you so much, sir, for sparing your time and hosting this show. And thank you everyone who has joined us today on this day and been with us throughout. Please do log in for our talks, which are scheduled tomorrow, day after, and on 22nd, and in future also. And please circulate in your circle about Value Talk. More the merrier. We would like maximum people should benefit from it. And the link for the Telegram channel is already there in the chat box. In another 2 days, our YouTube channel is also starting, on which the recordings of all these webinars will be uploaded. Please do join that also. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mukul sir. Thank you, Rohit sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah. Bye.
Thanks, Manish, and thanks, Mukul. See you. Bye.
Bye, sir.
Bye.
Gotta focus on yourself, on your faith, on your dreams, on